Welcome to How to Run Profitable Retreats podcast, the podcast that guides you not to only host retreats that thrive financially, but also transform people's lives. I'm your host, Leni Cavazos, and each week I bring you the best strategies and personal insights to help you create retreat experiences that transform lives, both your clients and your own. In our journey together, we'll dive into the secrets behind successful retreats, from crafting a unique atmosphere to mastering the logistics that ensure profitability. Whether you're tuning in for inspiring interviews with leading retreat experts or seeking actionable advice in our solo episodes, this podcast is your go-to resource for turning your retreat visions into reality. Don't miss out on any of our episodes and subscribe now. For more tools and a free guide on creating your own six-figure retreat business, visit theretreatplanner.com. Now let's get started and make your retreat dreams come true. Hello, welcome back to another episode of our podcast on running profitable retreats. And I'm so excited to have Danella here today with us to talk about empowerment in yoga. And Danella is a breathpreneur, right? So I don't know if you've heard this concept before, but it's absolutely amazing. And body shaper, a practicing yoga and breathwork instructor, coffee and chocolate lover, foodie, and a change maker of magnificence. And she loves going to the gym to lift weights, yoga, and Zumba. She walks and swims at the beach, and being in nature inspires her. She has over 10 years of experience coaching and mentoring in the career, health, and wellness industry, and she is the mama of two amazing daughters. And it all started over 25 years ago with yoga as a stressed out university student. And she found a sense of calm within and a space and ease in the body with yoga. So through meditation, connection of breath, and mindful movement, she was able to transform herself. So I'm so happy to have you here today and for our talk about empowering through yoga. I am so grateful for your time and your presence, and well, let's just get started.
Yeah, thank you, Leni. I'm so excited to be here today, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. So tell us a little bit about how is this empowering through yoga, and how do you see this as an opportunity for all our listeners?
Yeah, I think there's different aspects of how you empower through yoga. So you've got your physical, your body, you've got your being. So our body and our being sort of coexist together in this reality. So I guess, it's getting connected with the body through the breath, and it's being present. So, if you've got physical pain in the body, or you've got a weakness, or there's some kind of vulnerability going on, it's about strengthening that and finding some kind of balance, connectedness, and finding that centering through yoga. And I find that that's what empowers you. So it's that connection with the self and deepening the relationship with the self, but also with the body. Like it's about coming into communion with the body, because you chose to be here in this reality, in this body. And I think that's also what's really important to remember, is that you actually chose to come in this body. So what would it be like if you could choose something different with your body? What would it be like if you didn't have the judgment on your body? And how would you like to engage with your body in this reality? And there is also the mental aspect of de-stressing, reducing anxiety, which is also about connecting the breath back to the body. So I invite people to become more present and aware with their body. And I think, there's you're going to have to edit that.
No worries. We're all humans here, so don't worry.
There's the emotional side as well, the feeling realm. And I guess, again, that is about balancing that, and staying present. So I guess, for me, turning inwards And like, you have to show up for yourself, right? When you're turning inwards. It's about building confidence, and I've found that yoga grounds people, and it builds a certain confidence within themselves, not just the body.
So I'm sure
Like,
people
it's
want to know how yoga empowered your life, and like what it's like. How did you find this knowledge behind yoga, and like, what is your story?
Oh, so I started going to yoga classes when I was like 18. I was at university, whilst I was studying a Bachelor of Arts here in Melbourne, Australia. And I had quite a high level of anxiety, although I didn't have the label for that. I just knew that there was a lot of, I didn't have a lot of self-acceptance, and so I created a lot of anxiety for myself, I guess, around not feeling at home within me. And some of my uni students asked me to go to a yoga class. So I started attending a yoga class, and I just found this sense of space and expansion within my being that allowed me to feel more connected to myself. It gave me a sense of peace. I started to sleep a lot better. And I was doing fine art, so even my artwork started to shift and change. So the plugging into the creativity and my being and who I was. So not only did it transform my body, I got a lot more. When I talk about that sense of space in the body, what I mean is more flexibility, more ease in the body. Things weren't as sticky or as tight. There wasn't as much resistance. And so, if you've ever had an injury, you know what I mean. When some mornings you wake up and you're like, oh, that shoulder is really tight and stiff, and, you can feel the resistance in it. So yoga really assisted me with creating more space in the body. But it also gave me more mental clarity, more deep relaxation, more self-acceptance of not just me, who I was as a being, but also my body in this reality. And I guess for me, that's kind of how it transformed my life. And I just more joy, I guess, in the body, more ease in the body, and I guess walking with a bit of a sense of gratitude for what the body does for you in this reality. Yeah.
Amazing. And I know you didn't just like have your journey and start there and stop there. You've been like you traveled the world, like we were just talking about, like you trained in India and then you lived in Bali. You even speak Indonesian, and it's quite a hard language to learn. So, I think it's so important for people to know, right, that the journeys, like it can take you anywhere, because it allows you this space to just create who you want to be, right?
Yeah, I think it definitely does. Like, it's any challenge that I've also had in my life, I come back to my yoga practice. It's like my anchor in this reality. It's, like the breath is the anchor. My practice is my anchor, and it does take you on a journey. And things like, not everything is beautiful and rosy all the time. There are challenges in life. There are things that do come up. It's how we choose to respond to that. And I've found that yoga assists me or facilitates me in being able to breathe through that, being able to relax around certain things and find the clarity of what's next, whether that is traveling to a different country, or whether that is having family, or I have traveled the world. I've been to China and I've taught in China, and I've, did my yoga teacher training in India, which was the time of my life. And yes, I've lived in Bali, and, I've just come back from Mexico, and yoga, I guess for me, yoga's opened up a lot of options and opportunities to expand, to meet a lot of new people and connect worldwide and have a network worldwide.
Well, first of all, I think there's an invitation for everyone listening to us to just take a second and think about, what is your anchor to this world? For me, I have to say it's sound and breath, right? Like that's really what like grounds me and connects me with who I am. And whenever I'm feeling like, where do I go? I just go back to the breath, right? And then in yoga, you definitely do that. So I think it's so important. But I want you all listening here to consider the possibility of like, what is your anchor? And the next question is, does that anchor include a breath practice? Because I really believe that all the practices include breath, just simply by the fact that we have to breathe to stay alive, right? But also because it is really our connection to our life source, right? If we stop breathing, then we stop living. And that's why so many beautiful practices they always have something to do with breath, right? There's always a technique that has been implemented. Like even if you do Pilates, right? I love Pilates. So if you're doing Pilates, there is a specific style of breath that you have to do the exercises, because it moves your body in a different direction. That is the normal way that like if you're doing your boxing or your, I don't know, zip lining, like your breath and your heart races and you're like, so your body goes into like this stress mode. And then you're like, once you come out of this adventure experience, the first thing that you usually do is you take a deep breath and you're like, like, I'm alive. I made it through this.
Absolutely. Like if you are not aware of the different types of breathing that you are doing, I'm sorry, but you're not fucking alive. You need to show up for yourself every single day to be like, the way to connect to yourself is through your breath. Like you said life source, I say life force. That is exactly what pranayama is, or prana. It is your life force. And sometimes when I'm out and about, I'll hear people like they're getting heightened, and I'll be like, take a breath, take a deep breath. I've been in situations where I have, where there's maybe someone's fallen over, or there's been an anxious moment, or, and even in a shopping center, being with that person and asking them to just breathe, that's what taking yoga off the mat is for me. So, connecting with people and asking them to breathe, take a moment, and actually to notice and have the sensations of the breath coming in and out of the body, to notice what the body is doing when it's breathing. And many of my conversations with people is like, I don't really know what breath work is. Yeah, because you've actually never taken time to be conscious about what is going on with my breath. How much oxygen am I getting into the brain? How much am I letting go? And so often in my classes, people will hear me say, inhale, and then I'll be like, exhale, let that shit go. But I teach alternate nostril breathing a lot. I'll teach box breathing a lot. I will just simply teach people to extend the breath. Inhale for 4 and exhale for 4. No holds. And just getting people to become aware of what is going on in their body with the breath. And I am the lock, my body is the key.
Yeah. There's a recent study that just came out a couple of months ago. I saw the release a couple of months ago. Maybe it's been out there for longer. But, there was this study that like shows that if you sigh like 3 times and you're like, and you just like, like you just release, it has the same effects on the body on a chemical level than 5 minutes of meditation. So it's actually more power. Like if you're feeling very anxious, it might be a better practice to start with that before you go into meditation, because then your chemicals levels and everything in your body is kind of coming back into balance. And then basically you help that there is not that much of a monkey mind when you now go into the meditation. But it's so powerful, because before everyone's like, oh no, you just need to go and sit and meditate for 2 hours because you're stressed. And then if you're stressed and you go into meditation and you're not very like proficient at it or haven't been doing it for so long, you might stay in this state of stress and you're just sitting down with your eyes closed and actually creating more cortisol and more chemicals in your body that are not actually helping you. So like, how powerful is breath to really take us into like different dimensions with like holotropic breath work, or just grounding you with this like slow, very conscious breath that for me, that's my favorite, right? It's like very slow, it's circular, it just takes, you basically do a journey inside your body, and then suddenly you're in a different place. Your mood is different. Your emotions are kind of like balanced, because I don't want to say that we remove the emotions, right? But
well, I think when my clients come to the mat, often they're running to get to class, they've had to find a park. So when they get onto the mat, I usually do the 3 big sigh release, and then move into, like, we'll be in Supta Baddha Konasana, reclined butterfly pose, left hand on heart, right hand on belly, so they can actually feel physically what's going on with the body and the breath. And then they start to slow down that breath and start to consciously make the choice to breathe in and out. And
I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm a big fan. That's how I started my spiritual practices, if I'm being very honest. Like, honestly, I was lost. I was having this out-of-body experience for 3 days. My brain was bombarding me with like memories and like ideal scenarios, and it was just like nonstop for 24 hours. I couldn't sleep for 3 days. I was just like walking like a zombie. I have never experienced that myself before. And I had no idea about any of this. I was not really very much spiritual. On the other side, actually, I was a little bit more kind of like putting myself a wall in between, because I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy. Like, why people are doing this? It's like kind of believing in aliens. Anyway, I was like on the complete opposite side, with like even like putting a brick wall in front of it, right? And then honestly, it's like kind of like the story. I was in Mexico, and then I saw a dark alley. It sounds like a scary movie. Like, it's one of these things where you would never walk into that alley. And then I chose to. I was just like, I have to go there. I don't know why. I just did it. And then there was this woman who did breathwork sessions, like rebirthing breathwork sessions. And I just say, sign me up. I have no idea what else to do. I'm lost. Like, I really went outside of my comfort zone, because I did everything that I knew how to do. And it was absolutely amazing. It completely changed my life. And it was all through breath. There was no plant medicines. There was no 300 hours yoga teacher training. There was no spiritual journey to India or to Bali or anywhere else. It was in a tiny studio in a dark alley in a small town in Mexico. Nothing fancy, no big instruments of like, no huge gongs around that would like shift everything, no machines, nothing. Simple, clear breath. And she was just guiding me on how to breathe. She was like, you're gonna inhale, you're gonna exhale, this is the way you do it with your body. And then I just kept doing it for like an hour, and there was so much release. By the time I walked out of there, I was a completely different person, to the fact that we are standing here today and we're having these conversations.
Yeah, because we occupy a different space in the world and in the universe when we actually come back to that breath, because it's an energy. Everything is energy.
And we are all energy, right?
Experience, we are. So that experience of you, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Leni. That experience of just focusing on the breath for an hour and nothing else is what creates a different awareness and a different space, not just for the body, but for the being. And I think that's what breath work does. Yeah.
I also have to say, for, and you know, like in any industry that you are, you don't have to quit your job and become spiritual to be able to experience this. If you have a corporate job like I did back then, I was able to bring breath into my practice before I went into a meeting, before, like, you know, learning how to breathe while I was presenting. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but I used to get very excited and agitated. So then I wouldn't breathe for like 2 minutes, right? And then I was like, well, this is not working because I am not pacing myself. I am just like leaving the meeting like completely drained, you know, like, and I was like, okay, you know, like, and then because I was then practicing more and more and more, I was able to bring it into my everyday life. And I think this is such a huge learning for everyone to see,
Yes.
that you don't have to become this guru or shaman or leave your job and your family to be able to experience these, right? It's there with you every single day. It doesn't cost you a dime. It's free.
Yeah, that's right. So when I teach a yoga class, at the end of the class, I get people to actually lay on the mat and take a deep sigh and have gratitude for their body and what it does for them in this reality, and everything that it's just done in the session that they've been with me. And then I request that they take their practice from the mat out into the world. So that exactly matches up with kind of my philosophy around, you know, taking the breath work out there and using it in your corporate job, or using it when your children are going crazy, taking a few deep breaths and letting go, because it will change how you respond out in the world. It will change how your relationships and your connectedness with people and how you communicate with people. So that very experience of you going into the boardroom and presenting, that is common. I used to teach in a university, and I used to teach students to how to use breath back then, to use that, because I used to have to do presentations. So how can they present without those nerves as well? So it is about finding how you can take your practices from yoga to improve relationships, connection with yourself, your sense of what's going on for you, and using the practices every day in your life. But practically, it's not woo, some kind of, like you said, needing to be a shaman or a guru and teaching thousands. It's the simplicity of taking the breath out into the world for yourself.
Yeah, there's another invitation for everyone listening to us. What about the possibility that rather, instead of reacting, if we take a couple of breaths, we learn how to respond, right? We're so used to reacting into the world, into like all these external stimuli that are happening all the time, cars, TVs, the bank calling, anything, right? We're so used to reacting. What about like just taking a second, breathing, and then responding into our best interest without harming anyone else? Your life is going to completely change if you start doing this. Like, it's going to be a massive transformation.
Yeah, I agree. We have so many, and also, you know, a lot of people are walking around with the need for a reactional reality or a reactional system response. And that's because you are plugged in, or they are plugged in, or we are plugged in to everything around us. So if you can notice that, and notice, like, even in the body, where does that come up? Where does that come from too? And using the breath to actually move through that. I think, you know, breathing through anything can assist you, like you said, rather than react, respond. or just be like breathing through and not having any reaction or response. Like, what would it be like? What else is possible? What would it be like not to have a reactional reality or a reactional response to what's going on externally, to just be with yourself and your breath and be like, receive all of it.
Yeah, becoming the observer, right?
Yeah.
Like now you're observing the situation rather than being part of it. It's such a beautiful thing. I love the topic about breath, and I know we could spend hours talking about this and yoga, and how, yoga is one of the practices that has a lot of breath and many different type of breath. And then depending on from which yoga practice you're coming, they change, they shift, but they all have one thing in common. They have prana, right? So this life force that keeps you moving and going and moves all the energy that it's inside of you, that it's you, right? And then how you take that.
I'll tell you a little story about breath. So breath for me, that's something that is really key for me. When I went to India to do my yoga teacher training, I became so acutely aware of how breath contributed to my body that I lost something like 20 kilos in 3 months just through meditation, my breath work, and practicing yoga. Like, I really noticed how the breath contributed to the body, and in a way that I hadn't experienced in my breathwork practice before. Like, there are yogis that go up into the mountains and, swamis that go up into the mountains, and they don't eat. They actually just live off breath. I'm not saying that we should do that, because that's not this reality. And I'm a foodie. I love to eat. However, what I noticed is like a simple breath work practice in the morning, and then connecting my breath with my yoga practice, like my asana practice, my posture practice, how that contributed to my body and how I became in more communion with my body. So
I love this. Yeah, it's such a powerful story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so great.
What else is possible? Anything is possible.
Anything is possible. And because actually the breath, what it does is it brings you back into balance, right? So it balances you, right? So when you're really connected with your breath, then your breath starts balancing every single thing inside of you. And if something is out of balance, it's going to say, okay, goodbye. I don't need you anymore. You were there for a while, but it's okay. You can leave, right? It's the end of it. So I absolutely love this. And it is something that so many people can experience. And I haven't seen this very often in retreats, but I am sure there is a way to create a retreat that is not just about like the breath or all this kind of thing. Is how does this actually help you lose weight? Food for thoughts here for all these people listening, right? Because this is all about
actually prana is food. Yeah, it is. It's just a different life force energy. It's not solid. So
I love that.
We always think our food needs to be solid, and we try to solidify a lot of things in life. So, understanding that it's an energy that contributes to your body. And
you're being fed by energy.
That's it. That's right.
Well, this has been very, very good. Yeah, tell me.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, when you have injury or you've come out of surgery, or even feeling flat or depressed, like the breath, it just shifts things. Yeah. It's not like you should meditate. You should sit down and meditate. I feel like it's something that contributes to the body, that you don't even need to put a phone on to get a podcast or to get a meditation music. You can just do this anywhere at any point in time with yourself. So yeah, I think it's a good self-awareness to have.
Well, Danella, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for all your insight on how to empower your life through yoga, and how we went a little bit more into detail of breath, that is something that is a core piece of yoga as well. So I am so excited for this conversation. And for anyone who's listening, how can they find you if they want to learn more about what you offer? I know you're also in Australia, so for all the people listening in Australia, this might be very interesting for you.
Yeah, so I'm in Melbourne, actually, in Australia. You can find me at danelladraper.com.
I
You
will
can
put
find me
everything in the comments, so don't worry. You can go and find the link down there.
You can find me on Instagram at Danella Draper. That's my Instagram handle, and on Facebook, Danella Draper. And I'm running a retreat in Thailand.
Yay!
There'll be links to that on the website. If anyone is interested, you can reach out to me. And I will have one of my Indian teachers, who was my teacher there, co-hosting with me the retreat, Deepak. So it's so exciting. So yeah, reach out. I do private yoga sessions as well if you are in Melbourne. Yeah, and I'd love to connect.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for everyone who's listening to this episode. And we'll see you for the next one. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Leni. Bye.
Wow, what a great episode. If you like our podcast, How to Run Profitable Retreats, leave us a review and share it with a friend.